guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you some budgeting tips and how I budget for my luxury purchases. So if you're interested, do keep on watching. For those of you who are new here, my name is Amelia and I do videos on luxury and lifestyle. So if you enjoy these kind of videos, do consider subscribing, click on the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future videos. I feel like this topic is rather fresh on my channel. I don't typically talk about finance, even though I work in finance. But I thought I would just share with you some of the budgeting tips I have and how I budget for luxury purchases, because I do have some clients asking me about it sometimes, and I just thought I'll share my thoughts with you here on this channel as well. So we'll be running through quite a few things today, but I'm trying to keep it short and succinct so that it's a little bit more helpful for you guys over here. The very first thing I want to talk about is to set a yearly budget. So personally, I do have an expense tracker and I highly recommend it for anyone and everyone. So every single day that I go out and every single time that I spend money, I actually track them down on a budgeting app. I'm sure that there are lots of budgeting app options that you can download these days, but the one that I'm using is $. I'm not sure if it's a payable subscription now, but the time when I downloaded it, it was free. I just haven't upgraded the app version, but it's still working. I really like the interface of it because it's clean and aesthetically pleasing. I'm someone who is very drawn to aesthetics, so the aesthetics matter to me. So if you're someone like that, then I would say try to go for things that when you see it's a little bit more calming. And I love the fact that with $, you can actually create your own categories and you can even color code it as well, so that you can see in a glance every month how much you're spending on certain things. Out of all the categories that you have, which one is the one that you're spending most in, like maybe eating out or like shopping, etc. So I always do that. I started on this expense tracking system, I believe almost a decade ago. I started when I was, I don't know, like 23, 24, because I wanted to get good with money. I wanted to make sure that every dollar that goes somewhere, I want to know where it goes to. So that's why I started this expense tracking system. I would say that the very first time you start it out, it's a little bit unnatural. You actually have to consciously remember to take out your phone and key it in, and try not to put it aside for too long because you will forget to note it down. Not to say that I remember to do it immediately all the time, because sometimes when you're at the cashier, there's like people queuing behind you. I literally will stand at the counter and get it done if there is no one standing behind me. Like, I'm just shameless like that. I don't care, and I will just make sure I jot it down in my expense tracking app before I even leave, because I know that sometimes I will forget to do so. Either that, or I'll just keep all the receipts in my bag and make sure I don't throw them away, and I'll just come back every night and just jot it down. So I feel like this has to be like a habit, and in order to build a habit, it takes practice and it takes discipline. So definitely it will feel unnatural when you first start out, but I promise you that it will get better along the way. And I feel like the effects and results of it is very rewarding, so I highly recommend everyone to do it. So apart from setting up an expense tracking app, I do set up a yearly budget for myself every year on the 1st of January. Sometimes I do it on 31st December, but you know, people are normally partying on that day. So every 1st January, I will sit down and I will actually set a yearly budget for myself, so that I know what to do and what to spend on. So I have a clear image of how the year is going to look like in terms of finances. So for this yearly budget, I break them down into different categories. I have categories like personal expenses, which comprises of like eating out. We have gifts that I give to people. I have a category for self-care as well, because I do massages every month and I make sure that I get it done to try and eliminate as many headaches as I can get. And I also have shopping inside, but this shopping does not include the budget that I set out for luxury shopping. So these are things like if I were to buy a t-shirt from COS, let's say, or if I were to buy like a hand sanitizer, etc. So things like that falls under shopping. I also have categories for technology, for business expenses, because I am self-employed and I have business expenses to tend to, and then at the end of the year I can use this business expense to subtract it down for like tax savings. And then I also budget for travel because I travel quite a bit. I budget for car like petrol, cash card top-ups, etc. And then I budget for luxury. So I have budgets for every single category listed here. So for every category, I set out a budget for the year and I make sure that it's rather realistic. Like for example, for travel, I won't put in a budget like 5k because realistically I know I will spend more than that. So I'll put in a realistic number and make sure that I stick to it. By hook and by crook, it shouldn't go and exceed above it. Have I ever not stuck to it before? I'll be very honest with you and tell you that yes, there are instances where I didn't really stick to it. I feel like 2021 was the year that I was not so disciplined, so I tried to reflect it in 2022 and then I work on it. So don't beat yourself up too much about it, but try as much as possible to be disciplined, because that's the only way you can actually budget and make sure you stick to it. Apart from setting up all these budgets for expenses, because these are all, I would say, liabilities, things that you pay and it doesn't bring you any value. So I always make sure that I pay myself first. And what do I mean by pay myself first? It will be things like saving for retirement. I do have a few retirement accounts, including topping up into CPF as well. So for those of you not living in Singapore, CPF stands for Central Provident Fund, and basically it's a system in Singapore that allows people to put in money, or employers to top up money for you to save for retirement. So I mean, for people who are self-employed, we have to top up ourselves and we don't have employers' contribution. So I do that on a regular basis as well, I would say. I also set aside money for investments. I do have quite a lot of investment accounts, including funds, including stocks, including ETFs, including like everything. I do have a bit here and there, so I put money into investments. I also make sure to set aside money for insurance coverage as well. So that means that in the event that something happens, you know, like I don't have to worry about my cash for retirement and investments, because it will not eat up into all of those. The money will just come out from insurance alone. So I pay myself first and then I'll set out the budget for everything else. Because I'm self-employed and I don't have an income ceiling cap, so sometimes I set goals for myself as to how much I will roughly earn that year, and I try to work backwards. But for the people who have regular allowances or regular income, it's easier to calculate because you already know how much you're going to get. If you get a pay raise and a promotion in the middle of the year, then I would say that that's a bonus. And then we can relook at how you can manage the bonus monies. But yeah, I think this is a better way, so pay yourself first. So the next tip I have for people is to never ever spend on credit. Credit cards are great because you can earn miles from it, you can get rebate points from it. However, if you're not careful, you will actually rack up credit card debt, which is not wise. I feel like for many people to stick to this rule essentially is to not basically use your credit card like a debit card, you know. If you don't have the amount of money sitting in your bank, then you don't spend it, because in that instance then you won't have enough money to pay back the credit card and then you rack up credit card debts. On top of that, I read in an article somewhere that if you don't have 7 times of the value of the item that you want to buy sitting in your bank, then you shouldn't be buying it, because it means that you don't have enough. You don't have enough for like rainy days unless you specifically set aside that kind of money for it. So I feel like that is one rule that you can abide by as well if you want to. Another thing that you can try is to set up different savings accounts. Basically, you set an account for travel fund, you set an account for luxury spending, you set an account for retirement savings, etc. You have different saving accounts for different purposes. Personally, I feel like that doesn't work for me, or rather I don't need it because I already have my own budgeting system in place. But if you find that it works for you, then by all means go ahead. I feel like budgeting is a very personal thing for everyone. Find something that works for you. It doesn't mean that if it works for your friend or someone else that it would also work for you. For example, some people are just not great at like saving the money that they see in their bank. Like if they see the money sitting in their bank account, they are very tempted to just spend it because they feel like they can, you know. So for these people, it's better to actually set aside an amount of money somewhere else into these various savings accounts, so that you don't touch the personal savings account and your money actually goes into these various other channels that it's supposed to go to. Yeah, I feel like setting up these various savings accounts It's also one good way if you feel like you cannot be disciplined enough to set a budget aside, like what I mentioned previously, then this might work for you. So along the years, I feel like my spending habit on luxury items actually have evolved. I didn't used to spend so much on luxury items as well. Like I was a little bit more thrifty, if you can call it, or my focus was just not on luxury items back then. If you have not watched the video where I talk about how I get into luxury, etc., I'm just going to link it up over here. So the very first time I went to Paris in 2014, I actually set myself a rule, and that is I cannot buy more than 2 bags that trip. So I stuck to 2 bags, and I bought myself my very first Chanel bag, which is the Chanel Boy, as well as the YSL Velvet Clutch that I still own to this date. I don't use them very often anymore, but I still have sentimental values on them because they are my very first 2 bags that I spent on. Yeah, I feel like that could be one way as well. Like you can just set a number of bags that you want to buy that year if that works for you. Like if you're not keen on ready to wear, you're not keen on jewelry, you only like bags, like you're a handbag lover, and I feel like it's okay to set like a 2 bag a year rule. I mean, granted that it could be that the bag is very expensive, like an Hermès bag, but at least you set yourself some parameters so that you don't go overboard. Obviously, this rule doesn't work out for me quite so much anymore because my spending towards luxury have evolved along the years. So we adjust according to our lifestyle changes, and you just do whatever works for you. Another good tip that I feel like most people can adopt is to actually chart out an Excel sheet for all your luxury expenses. I didn't do this until like last year, where I really sat down and I went through all my items and list them down. So I will list down the brand, the item, and then I will also list down how much I bought it for, which year I bought it for, and what is the current price of the item this year. And I will try to update this every start of the year if possible, so that I can actually see how much my item has appreciated over the years as well. I feel like it's a very good tip if you are buying bags, especially for investment purposes, which honestly I really don't think that people should. Because you want to buy bags to enjoy yourself, I feel like it's okay to have some fun bags here and there. Like if you are just very focused on like buying investment bags, I feel like you lose the fun in like collecting handbags as well. So that's just my personal opinion. But I think this Excel chart is an excellent idea so that you can see how much your bags have appreciated over the years, especially your Chanel bags. So if you have a lot of Chanel bags, I'm sure like you'll feel very happy that they have appreciated. Maybe you feel more worried using it because your item is valued so much more now, but that's besides the point. I feel like this chart will also be very useful for you if you eventually decide to sell this bag. So at least you know how much you got it for. You don't have to try and rack your brain to think about how much you actually got it for. And always keep your receipts. Back then, I am not so disciplined with keeping the receipts. I have it somewhere. It's sitting around somewhere in my wardrobe, but I feel like you need to find a good system to actually keep your receipts in the event that you want to actually sell your items in future. So I would suggest that you actually get a box. So what I personally do last time is to get an accordion file. Obviously it doesn't work anymore because I have so many receipts. I feel like there's a better way to do this, but because I didn't used to have a lot of items back then, like I can still chuck them in and I will segregate them by brands, but I don't think this is working right now anymore. So I have like tags, I have like receipts from like, and then I'll write notes. I'll even write like Versace swimwear, and then when I got it for and roughly how much I got it for, and I'll just write it there. And then I have all the tags like just sitting in here. Dior tag, I have what is this, Cartier, I have Chanel receipts as well. So yeah, I keep them all in this accordion file just to keep them organized, but I would say that it's not working out so much anymore. So you might want to get like maybe like a Toyoga box, or like just something that you can put all your receipts and like categorize, segregate them if you're even more OCD and you want to do that. by all means go ahead. I feel like it's very necessary. I feel like it will be very helpful for you in the long run. One other thing that I try to do is to try and shop my stash first. So before you buy something, ask yourself whether it fits a certain gap in your handbag collection. Like if this bag is looking too similar to something you already have in your collection, then you might want to question yourself as to whether or not you want to spend that much of money to buy something that is so similar, or if not, then buy something in a different color. But I feel like going through your handbag stash and like identifying what you have already, or try to even shop your stash first, is a very good way to kind of like ask yourself if you really need another handbag that is in the same style, you know. So I would highly recommend people do that. One other way to save on luxury purchases, especially handbags, is to shop pre-love. Obviously, I am a massive fan of pre-love. Like anything that I can get a good deal out of it, I would totally run for it. I feel like there are a lot of pre-love websites that you can check out. I also did an entire video on my vintage handbag collection. I'm going to link it up over here as well. I'm also going to link some of the different sites that I usually shop pre-love in the description box down below, so that you can go and check them out. I feel like pre-love is a very good way moving forward, especially after the pandemic. But even before the pandemic, I was already looking at pre-love websites like Vestiaire, because I just want to get a good deal out of my items. And there are just some items I feel like if I can not pay full price for it, I will not pay full price for it. Unless you're someone who wants the whole shopping experience, like walking into store and then buying it from the store and having that kind of service. But if that's not your main concern, then you don't need that, and you can always find a good deal somewhere on the internet. You just have to look for it, you know. So I think shopping pre-love is a great way to save on your luxury purchases, and you know, you're just giving an unloved bag a new lease of life. And how great is that? Some of the vintage bags that I have, including my Chanel vintage, it is in my birth year, so that's about like 35 years, and it's still looking excellent, and I love it. And I feel like the bag has so much history going on that I just like the story of it, you know. So I think pre-love is definitely something that most people can check out as well. So I've come to the end of the video. I hope you have learned some tips about how to budget for luxury shopping. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!